Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Tech Tuesday. It's really fun to talk to young people who are inventing new. Oops, Are we running? Oh, I see. I don't know what's happening. Anyway, Jade, it looks like we got a Facebook problem there. I think so. I'll let you deal with that. But we're learning on. This is a problem when you're live, right? And things go wrong, you have to deal with it. But Jade, I'll let you deal with that. It looks like we're running fine on LinkedIn and YouTube, which is what's important. Anyway, back to where we were. One of the best. It is so much fun to talk to young people who are inventing things. We first met at the Senior Living 100. One of the interesting parts of our story here is that they have actually made a pivot in how they're using their software. They were targeting assisted living. What they've discovered is it's a better care fit for home care, but a lot of you people are doing home care. A lot of you have home care agencies. This will still be a really fun, exciting conversation. But before we get started, this. Hey guys, Steve Moran here. Okay, so let's start. My number one question is, how are you changing? Tell me about what your passion is, what problem you're solving for the world.
Yeah, so got a little bit of feedback on my end here. We're all good, Steve? You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sweet. Sorry. So we started building our company about 2 years ago now. Our company's called Nara. And we started as a group of students at USC. We joined a startup incubator. And I had a lot of personal connections to the assisted living space. My grandma back in Chicago was paying, $10,000, $12,000 a month for really inadequate care. People were stealing like the jewelry off of her neck. She would fall and no one would be there for her. And so we teamed up, Grishma and I, as well as one other, Radin. And our thesis was that, the problems that exist in the industry, it's not a people problem, it's really a systems problem. And so we built a lot of technology software for assisted living communities all across the United States. Some of the Momentum senior living properties were our biggest clients, and provided a lot of value, but have since shifted to the home care markets just because we think that the problem exists at an even greater scale there. And that problem is primarily documentation getting in the way of delivering high quality care. And so our product now is for care managers and care coordinators at home care agencies. We're cutting their documentation time 60 to 70% and helping them deliver high quality personalized care for the people that they serve, and really freeing up their time to focus on what matters.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit. We know that documentation, number one, is super important for anybody in the delivering healthcare, home care, or any of those. And for two reasons, right? The one we tend to think about most is protection from lawsuits, but it's not only that. It's also making sure that you're providing the right amount of care at the right time, the ability to see trends and all that. So talk to me a little bit about what does your technology do? How does it actually help with that?
Yeah, so I can take that one. Nara has an app and a website. So I like to kind of split up our product into three different parts. So the first part would be, Nara's with you from the very beginning of the care journey. So when a care manager, clinician sits down with a client, goes into their house, does that intake visit, that follow-up visit, with a single click of a button on our phone app, they can click record and we'll ambiently transcribe their conversation that they're having with the client, so that they don't have to deal with like 20 pages of papers, taking notes, missing fields, all these forms that they have to fill out. They can just, leave their phone on the table and we'll listen in on your conversation. And by the end of the visit, we'll be able to generate any care plan, any paperwork, any form that an agency might have to complete. And that's the first part. So by the end of the visit, we've transcribed your conversation and you have your filled out form waiting ready for you.
Okay. So I got a couple questions about this. First off, let's talk a little bit about privacy and permission and how you address that question.
Yeah, so I think the first thing I will say here is that something that puts our users at ease is that once the transcription and analysis of your conversation has been done, we don't store your recording. Your data is yours. We don't train, we don't use it for any other purposes except to analyze the recording and generate the form. And our platform, is completely HIPAA compliant. We'll encrypt all of your data so that, it's never at risk.
Okay, but I assume you still the best practice is to tell people you're recording to ask about it.
Yeah, and that's like the responsibility of the care manager, care coordinator using the platform.
Okay, great. And the second question I have is, so first off, I'm going to tell you I'm a big AI user. I love AI, and I think everybody almost nobody uses it as well or as much as they should. I've talked to some physicians about using ambient AI to do their notes when they do visits, and frankly I've been surprised that my own physician has not done that. Although I was someplace, I think it was my wife had a hip replacement, and I think they used it. But anyway, and talking to some physicians about why they're not using it, one of the complaints, the big complaint they had was that they found they were spending more time going back and doing editing than it was worth, and it actually was a bigger hassle. How do you deal with that challenge?
Yeah, so Grishma was kind of talking about the core product, which is just transcribing and then building out a care plan. But the way a lot of these agencies operate is they don't just use like a PDF of a care plan. They interact with the care plan via their care management software. And in a lot of cases, that's, WellSky, Access Care, Alaya Care. And so what we do is we look at the schema of all the care plan fields in WellSky, usually like the ADLs, the IADLs, the medications, the care goals, yada, yada. And so once we transcribe on the Nara platform, we'll say, hey, here are the 7 ADLs that are relevant. Here are the 5 medications that are relevant. And then the care manager can just go through and look at each field, verify that it's correct, and then they click send to send it to their existing system. And I will say that because it's not in, all this free form text, it's really like structured fields. We're providing a lot of value and saving them a lot of time. And from what we've found, they're definitely not spending more time reviewing. They're spending more time doing other things rather than doing the documentation itself.
Okay. And so this has interoperability or connector with all the, I don't know the home care space particularly well. So with whatever if you will, EHR or EMR type platforms for home care.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is good so far. So I'm a consumer of home care, so I'm sort of looking at it from this perspective, but I have a pretty good understanding of it. So every time right now, because my wife had her hip replaced a week ago, so she's got home care coming in, and she's got basically 2 things. She's got a nurse coming in a couple days a week, and she's got a physical therapist coming in a week. So what you've described as sort of an initial intake, does it also something that happens on every time there's a visit, it also is plugged in, and how does that work?
Yeah, exactly. So Nara's platform will create these client profiles, and in the same way that you record an intake visit, you can go ahead and record your follow-up visits, and we'll update your existing care plan on the client as well. So all these like additional visits that you have, any recent, allergies, details, whatever medications that come up, we'll go ahead and update that into the platform as well.
Okay, so is that done as sort of an ambient listening, or do I, after I'm done with the visit as a caregiver, I pick up my device and I dictate notes?
Yes, it's a mix of both.
Yeah. I
Okay.
think there's a lot of flexibility that we offer. Just to kind of speak to the product a little bit more, we try to cater to our users and be as flexible as possible. So whether you want to take pictures of medication bottles or upload a hospital document that you have, or, just copy paste your notes from your phone or record, there's a lot of flexibility there. So really, we support almost everything.
Okay. And then as you do this, I guess one of the things that I'm still a little puzzled by is one of the as I look at AI in terms of creating care plans, not so much in terms of somewhat in terms of care plans, but creating care plans, but in terms of managing ongoing care. One of the things that I think a tool like yours can do that has tremendous potential is to creating much longer narratives that AI can then go back and look at and do trend analysis and those kinds of things, or just particularly in home care where you have a lot of different people going in. So this has been a couple of years, but I got sick, flu, sinus infection, something like that, and so made an appointment with my physician. And my doctor was out of town, so it was somebody who I'd never interacted before. And as you can see, I'm an old guy, right? So I've got this really, really, really long set of medical records in the computer. I mean, there might be 100 pages, there might be 200 pages. I don't know what it is, right? So I go in, I talk to the physician about what I needed, what's going on, and she immediately said, "Well, let me take a look at your record." And so I'm sitting there waiting for her record. So there's some pressure, and she's got a clock that's running until her next appointment. She's trying to go page through all these things, and she sits there for 4 or 5 minutes and goes through. And she said, "Oh, okay, I got a picture right now." But there's no way she can actually absorb or even know. I mean, there's really big stuff there that she could potentially miss, right? So as she was doing this, I was thinking, man, if she had AI, she could go in and say, or even talk to it and say, so what are the big things going on with Steve that are important that I need to know in the context of his symptoms, and get the right answers. I give you a great example of this. So, and I did this with you guys. So I have a little AI project that I set up before I do interviews for live stream. And I did an interview with a CEO who's turned 70 in a few weeks. She told us that on air, so I'm not telling secrets about it, right? And she and I, the first time we met, we had this big fight going on. I wrote an article that she hates it when I call it a fight. So we had a big passionate disagreement about something. And I saw her at another conference earlier this year, and we were talking about it, and it was like, we couldn't, neither one of us could remember what the conflict was. And so I was doing prep yesterday, and I did a little search for it, but AI came up and said, "Oh, this is what," it just found it and said, "You guys had started by this conversation." So are you guys doing that? I mean, that's a long-winded way to ask a question, but.
Yeah, so within the platform, we have a fully HIPAA compliant chat interface where the care manager or care coordinator can query to pull information. But what we do that's really, really cool is that they can pull information about a specific client. So they can say, hey, what kind of caregiver would be suitable for Grishma? Would you prefer like male or female? What medications is she on? Yada, yada. You can pull information like that. You can also query across your entire company. So this is more for the operator themselves. They can say, how many of our clients are coming from this referral source, or how many of our clients are on VA benefits, or yada yada. And so right now it's pulling specific information about a client, pulling across the caseload itself, every client that the agency serves, and then we're working towards more predictive analytics to actually recommend specific actions and predict things in the future. But we just don't have the scale to do that yet. But that's something that we're working towards.
Okay, so I want to back up. I got a couple more questions about sort of platform and how it works, but I want to actually sort of go back to your origin story. How did you guys decide to do this? What happened?
Chris, you want this or me?
I think you're better suited for this one.
So we all come from engineering backgrounds. Like Grishma was at SpaceX and Lockheed Martin, and our other co-founder Radin was at Stanford doing AI research. And so at USC, there's very, very competitive startup clubs, and so we joined a startup club. And the premise is that you're going to build a company in 10 weeks. And there's been a lot of successful companies that have come out of the incubator, raised tens of millions of dollars, and have done really incredible things. And so that was our goal, and that still is our goal. To build something that provides value in the world and makes money in the process. But it was really my connection to the industry. Again, I've been very, very fortunate to have all my grandparents in my life, and they've been in home care, home health, assisted living, the entire continuum of care. But my one grandma really just had a bad experience being in assisted living, and so we started doing customer discovery in the space to build a product. And I'd say it was the potential to provide value, number one, but also just how willing people are to talk to us, because we're really young, tech-driven builders in a very overlooked space. And I don't think we got that in a lot of other industries. But every care manager, caregiver that we reached out to, operator, they were really willing to give us their time and their resources, because they want to see innovation and they want to see us succeed. And so I think that's what's made us stick with it for the last 2 years.
Okay.
And I want to kind of just add that I feel like elder care, senior care specifically, has been such an overlooked industry, especially compared to healthcare as a broader industry. There's different ambient tools for doctors, hospitals, but elder care specifically, when we got an inside look into how these guys are operating, how they're keeping track of client information, it was kind of almost frustrating when we were looking at it about a year and a half ago, and we wanted to do something that mattered. And I think something that we like to say, or I like to say, is that we want to put our youth to some good use. So here we are.
Good. So one of the things I'm kind of I'm puzzled by is why you shifted from senior living, because to me it seems like this is a really good target for the senior living space. And there's some really there are a number of EHR platforms out there that are focused on assisted living and skilled nursing, with point click care, of course, being the big giant on the skilled side, but it being much more fragmented. And I don't know that anybody is. I mean, you may probably know this better, but this would seem like it would be a perfect pick. You just stick a mic. My vision is you stick a microphone on everybody in a senior living building, and it just you capture all this information, and maybe even you capture the voice of the resident, which means you can do some sentiment analysis and track their. And so why the switch?
Yeah, so that was one of my initial ideas, was to do ambient listening and assisted living. And we tried to build it out. We tried to go to market with it. And then we didn't. We started doing a lot of custom automations with point click care. And connecting point click care with other systems that these companies used to just streamline and do data sync. But I think we just got into a couple deals that left a bad taste in our mouths. We were building really, really hyper specific products that were not copy and paste to the next client. And I also just think that it's a 2x better solution, but I think in home care it's a 10x better solution, because the communication, I guess not barriers, but the lack of communication just exists at a far greater scale. You look at assisted living, maybe between shifts information is lost, but at least everyone is in the same environment. And if there is something really, really critical to be communicated, it's going to get communicated. Whereas in home care, there's one, parent office that's managing this entire territory of caregivers. And I think just the fragmentation and the communication problems exist at a far greater scale for that reason. And so we can provide more value as well.
Cool. That's really good. So I lost my train of thought here. I had this great question to ask you. So I'm going to go a little bit different direction here for a minute, because it will come back. So I have this dream For this is for assisted living, but I think it would work equally well, maybe even better in a home care environment. So, and also I'll paint it in the home care environment. So you've got a care aide or you've got a nurse, and they wake up on Monday morning and they've got a list of 4 to 8, 9 clients they need to go see, right? And maybe they've got a relationship. Oftentimes they're very short term. So I have this vision that they get in their car, their Bluetooth connects with their phone, with your tool, and of course this is geolocated, so it can says, oh, here's the direction to your client, and you've got 5 more minutes. Let me give you a brief summary of what your client, and gives you this voice readout along with what you've got to do today. And then, of course, you got ambient listening. So you're doing all the thing. You know that everybody knows that's listening. So you're sort of dictating, but also having conversation. And when you walk away, it's done. Probably not there yet.
You're saying this is for
that's what my dream is. I think it should happen in senior living. So, right, I think that every senior living care operator ought to have this same thing where they've got an earpiece, maybe even a camera, but certainly a microphone, and they get a list of residents they walk into, and as they go into Mrs. Jones, they said, okay, here's Mrs. Jones. Here's what's going on with her. I know you care with her already, but here's some things you might talk to her about. Here are the things you need to do. So I don't know. To me, that seems like the ideal, where it gets to what your dream is of reducing the technology, the drudge part of the workload.
Yeah, I would say like our home care product operates effectively the same. It's without the phone talking to you, but when you open the client's profile, it gives you a synopsis of like what is critical and like who the client is and what they need help with and what is critical for that day as context before the care manager goes into the home.
And just to go back and highlight one of the features that we were talking about earlier, we like to call intelligence. So again, kind of similar to ChatGPT and Claude, except, completely HIPAA compliant and has complete context on your care recipients that you're working with. And so, you can go, again, query, say, hey, remind me what Steve likes. What did we talk about last time? Because we have all that information about the visits and the timeline and all the conversations you've had, we can go ahead and remind you of like, hey, remember that Steve likes this.
Okay, terrific. So I remember, I know it would come back to me. So you talked about this pivot from assisted living to home care. I want you to talk to me a little bit about when you woke up and you said, oh man, we're going down this path over here. And one day you woke up and say, this isn't working. How about if we go I would love to have, because there are so many businesses, so many startups that pick a path and they just keep going down it even when it's clear it's not working. And so I have so much admiration that you're willing to do that. So I'd like to have you talk to me about how you worked through that process, how you figured it out.
Yeah, I think from the very beginning, something that we've kept at our core at Nara is that we want to be solving real problems. We want to stay as close to our users as possible. So how we started was talking to these care managers, agency owners, assisted living operators, understanding what are their problems, right? I think what ends up happening a lot of the time, especially, from a more tech background, is like, hey, we see these problems, and we'll build out all these solutions, but we forget in the process of building, in the excitement of building a really cool product, we forget to solve the actual problem. So we've kind of kept that principle as a core at Nara. So as we were going down the assisted living path, we would ask ourselves like, hey, is this really solving a problem? And I think, again, we continued those conversations with other people in the industry, and we saw that, hey, home care really does have this problem. Assisted living, like Philip said, it's a 2x maybe better solution rather than the 10x that we were seeing in home care.
Okay, cool.
And Steve, I will say we've done everything under the sun as well. Like we've built solutions for PACE facilities in California. We've done Medicare reimbursement documentation for home health. We've worked with like PACE facilities that only speak in like Korean. We've done home care, we've done assisted living, we've done pretty much everything under the sun. And so now we've just seen that home care is the bread and butter, and that's where it's working, and that's where we can sell product.
Gotcha. Well, I love hearing pace. I'm a big fan of it. I think it's terribly underutilized, but from a software vendor. I can also see that might be a difficult place to go because it's just not big enough. Are you funded yet?
We're completely
No.
bootstrapped.
Okay, so I'm a senior living operator. I've got a home care division. I'm thinking, man, I'd sure like to. Staffing is this massive problem, and if I can make my people more efficient, they're going to like working for me better. Maybe they can even see an extra resident a day or a couple extras a week. What does it look like to engage with you?
As a company, us three?
As a company, yeah. So I'm somebody who's watching this, and I'm said, oh man, I like those kids. I can say that because I'm this old. So I had to talk to them. What's it like? What? Talk to me about the process of what that looks like.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we work. I know that it's easy to say this, but we do work incredibly closely with all of our clients. We have care managers that will call us every single day, and they'll be like, "Hey, I kind of want this to be like a little bit different. Can you look into this and like, can you fix it? Or like, I'm not exactly sure how to do this. Or I've they also just tell us how much they love the product. So I would say that, and then also like we respond to all of our clients within 10 minutes. So no matter at any point in the day, if it's 8 a.m. or if it's midnight, if someone has something that's not working or they have product feedback or they want to tell us how much they love the product, we will respond to them in 10 minutes. And we have, I think, like almost 50 people using the product every single day across all the agencies that we work with. And we can still respond within 10 minutes to all of them. And I think that's a testament to how closely we work with our customers. Grish, anything else?
Yeah, kind of to add on there, I think we like to, again, stay as close as possible to our users. So, we'll bring in lunch, we'll go for coffee, we'll bring in bagels, really understand. And I think building that relationship, and, we like to say this, we hear this a lot. This industry is very like based on relationship, runs on trust, runs on the people in it. So that's why we understand that. And we're there next to you. We're hearing your feedback and making our product better by the day.
Talk to me a little bit about the economics. Is there an upfront fee? Is it a monthly? How does that work?
Yeah, it's just a monthly subscription fee for the
Okay.
software.
And how long does it take to get this? So I call you up and I say, I want to do this. And I've got, I don't know what an agency size. I've got 100 clients. How long would it be take me to get up and running?
Well, we could get you up and running like within the same meeting with the entire platform. I will say, I don't know if we got to highlight this as much, but we're not just one software, not a point solution. We'll integrate into systems like Point Click Care, Well Sky. So setting up that integration may take a couple days, but in terms of using the core product, the core transcription feature, that's just a matter of a couple minutes.
Okay, well, but there's still, but it go along beyond sort of just setting up the technology. You've got training and things you've got to do with the users, right? And
Yeah.
I assume it's fairly intuitive, but there's still stuff that goes with that, right?
Yeah, it's fairly intuitive, but the way that we like to do it is we like to kind of pick. We like to have the operator pick some of their more tech forward care managers and care coordinators and really work with them closely to have them understand how to use the product. And then from there, like they're the ones teaching other people at the agency when things, when they're having trouble and they don't know what to do. That's usually how we go about it.
Okay, so and is it per employee, per client? How does that work?
It's per client, per older adult served at the agency, and then it's tiered. So like we do under 50 under 50 clients, 50 to 100, and then over 100 and custom thereafter.
Okay.
And so for anyone out there, our under 50 is $650 a month with the integration into the EHR, and then it's in increments from there on.
Okay, perfect. Now that's terrific. And we're about out of time. So my next to my last question is there anything I should have asked you about, or any features that we should have talked about that you're thinking, man, he didn't ask me, or I want to talk about? Is there anything I'm missing? We're missing.
Yeah, I can think of one more thing or two more things. One is that we are working on a lot of integrations. Again, like we said, there's a lot of point solutions out there, and we understand the value of being able to, for Nara to fit into how you work. So we do build integrations into different systems, whether that's Slack to get information from there, or Teams, those sorts of more personalized aspects we do offer. And the best way to go about that would be to get into conversation with us and see where we can go from there. And then I will say we are also growing as a platform. We are, relatively early. And so we will soon be getting into scheduling, CRM features as well.
Okay, terrific. Anything else, Philip, from your perspective?
I think one thing we talked about predictive analytics, but I would say like provider management is something that we're also investing resources in. We have a couple clients that do home care, but also do some like nursing services. And so, a lot of our clients are really big in California, but they're also looking to expand into other states around the United States. And so how do you ensure that your employees in another state are delivering the same quality care that you're delivering in California? And obviously it's a hiring thing, but it's also a problem that can be addressed with technology. And so we're building the infrastructure to do that as well, I would say.
Okay. Are you geographically limited in any place in the United States, or primarily focused on California?
We're primarily focused in California, but we have some clients outside of California.
Okay, perfect. So last question is, where do people find you?
Yeah, so
go ahead.
You got it.
Yeah, you can reach out to us over LinkedIn, our website. I'm sure, Steve, you'll send out the information, LinkedIn, website, or email. And email would just be grishma@withnara.com or first name @withnara.com. So it would be philip@withnara.com.
Philip, Grishma, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for watching. We'll be back on Friday with a great conversation with Amy Schechtman, To Life. And I hope you have a great week. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Really appreciate it.
Yes, Steve.